The West didn't see this coming. Well, global powers were busy playing politics. Two underdog nations quietly shook hands and changed the rules of the game. In July 2025, Burkina Faso and Bangladesh signed a direct cotton trade agreement that sent shock waves through the global trade order. It wasn't just ink on paper. It was a declaration of independence. No more waiting on aid. No more begging for deals wrapped in debt. This was South-South cooperation in action, and at the heart of it stood Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a man the West calls unpredictable, but his people call unstoppable. Traoré isn't interested in charity. He's building power through plows, not pipelines. And this deal with Bangladesh, it's just one piece of a bigger vision. A vision where Africa stops exporting raw dreams and starts exporting value. So what happens when a young African leader stops playing by old rules? What happens when farmers become diplomats and tractors replace luxury cars? The answer is already unfolding, and the world is watching. This is not just Burkina Faso's story. It could be Africa's future. When news broke of the cotton deal between Burkina Faso and Bangladesh, few in the West paid attention. But they should have, because this wasn't just another trade agreement. It was a thunderclap in the quiet storm of global power realignment. It marked the beginning of a new chapter, where African nations no longer wait for validation from Washington or Brussels to define their future. At its core, the agreement is brilliantly simple. Bangladesh, a textile powerhouse, needs high-quality cotton. Burkina Faso, one of Africa's top cotton producers, grows some of the finest fiber in the world. By eliminating middlemen and foreign brokers, both nations gain. Bangladesh secures a steady supply of cotton for its $45 billion garment industry. Burkina Faso expands its export market and captures more value for its farmers, many of whom have lived on the edge of poverty for generations. But the true power of the deal lies in what it symbolizes: South-South cooperation in its purest form. No World Bank intermediaries, no European Union red tape, just two developing nations recognizing each other's worth and acting on it. That's revolutionary. Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't just sign a deal. He launched a message that Burkina Faso will no longer be a pawn in someone else's game. By forging direct economic ties with Bangladesh, he proved that Africa doesn't have to go through the West to reach the world. And Bangladesh wasn't shy about the benefits either. Their ambassador made it clear this deal is about long-term collaboration. It includes technical training in irrigation, pest control, and post-harvest logistics. It opens doors to educational exchanges and even military cooperation in peacekeeping and disaster relief. It's not just cotton. It's a full spectrum partnership that challenges the old order of trade based on charity, not equality. This deal is only the beginning. It sends a signal to other African nations. You don't have to wait. You don't have to beg. You can build. You can trade. You can lead. All it takes is the courage to shake the right hand and the will to stand tall in your own soil. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not just thinking about today's harvest. He's planting seeds for Africa's future. The cotton deal with Bangladesh is only one part of a much larger strategy, one that dares to redefine the continent's place in global trade. Since taking office, Traoré has signed new partnerships with 8 countries across Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America, including India, Turkey, and Cuba. His message is clear. Africa will no longer rely on old colonial ties to grow. It will build its own web of cooperation on its own terms. What makes Troy's approach different is that he doesn't treat agriculture like a burden. He sees it as Burkina Faso's greatest asset. For decades, Western leaders viewed Africa as a source of cheap labor and raw goods. But Troy sees fields as gold mines and farmers as builders of sovereignty. The agreement with Bangladesh reflects this mindset. It wasn't signed in a back room by disconnected bureaucrats. It happened face to face with vision and intent. It includes not only cotton trade but also collaboration in areas like education, healthcare, and rural development. Even visa exemptions and military training programs are on the table, proof that this partnership runs deep. Troy understands something that corrupt leaders across the continent ignore. Real power doesn't come from foreign loans or flashy cars. It comes from feeding your people, educating your youth, and shaking hands with partners who respect you. That's exactly what he's doing. By strengthening ties with Bangladesh, Traore is doing more than selling cotton. He's building a support network, one that bypasses Western dominance and empowers African leadership. He's showing that respect can't be borrowed. It must be earned and defended. And in doing so, he's lighting a path for others to follow. Because real change doesn't happen when you imitate the powerful. It happens when you believe in your own power and use it to lift others with you. While many leaders talk about feeding their nations, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is actually doing it. His agricultural revolution is not a slogan. It's a sweeping campaign, backed by real numbers, real machines, and real results. In 2024, instead of spending money on luxury cars and foreign travel, Traoré invested over 78B CFA francs into the fields. The results: more than 400 tractors, 239 motorcycles, 710 motor pumps, and over 68,000 tons of fertilizer were distributed directly to farmers. Thousands of liters of phytosanitary products, vegetable seeds, and animal feed followed. For the first time, Burkina Faso's rural workers were not forgotten. They were prioritized. And the impact is visible in villages that once harvested only enough to survive. Yields have tripled. New crops like tomatoes and onions are being grown, alongside staples like millet and maize. What used to be struggling subsistence farms are now buzzing with economic activity. Farmers are selling their produce to local markets and processing centers like the $12 million tomato factory built entirely from domestic funds. But Traoré's vision doesn't stop at equipment. He knows that real transformation comes with knowledge. That's why Burkina Faso has partnered with countries like Bangladesh to transfer advanced farming techniques, drip irrigation, pest control, post-harvest handling. The goal is not just to grow more but to grow smarter. The Peri SBF irrigation initiative is one such example. Powered by solar energy, it has opened up 1,800 hectares of arable land, directly benefiting over 21,000 people. These are not abstract numbers. These are families, mothers, fathers, children whose lives have changed because water now flows where dust once ruled. And perhaps most importantly, these changes are not imported. They are built from within. Every bag of fertilizer, every pump, every seed, every policy comes from a belief that Africa can feed itself without permission, without pity. Traoré is proving that dignity grows best when it's planted at home. And in Burkina Faso, the harvest is just beginning. Captain Traoré knows that seeds alone won't feed a nation. It takes people, especially the young, to till the soil, nurture the crops, and carry the vision forward. That's why he's investing not just in land, but in the hands that work. In 2025 alone, over 2,000 young Burkinabe were trained in modern agronomy and civic education within just 3 months. These weren't just classroom lectures. They were field trainings, cooperative projects, and hands-on experience with new technologies. Traoré's government gave these youths not only knowledge, but a mission. But the investment didn't stop there. Agricultural students were granted access to free land for research and experimentation. No bureaucracy, no red tape, just tools, soil, and a purpose. This bold initiative redefined farming not as a last resort, but as a respected profession for the next generation. And the results are visible. Across rural provinces, young people are staying instead of leaving. They're forming cooperatives, starting agri-businesses, and taking pride in working the land. Traoré is turning farming from a symbol of poverty into a badge of progress. He sees the youth not as a burden, but as Burkina Faso's greatest asset, and by putting them at the center of the agricultural revolution, he's proving that the future of Africa isn't something to fear, it's something to farm. 4 years poor infrastructure kept Burkina Faso's farmers isolated, trapped by dirt roads that turned to rivers during the rainy season. Crops spoiled, markets were out of reach, and hope faded with every muddy mile. Captain Traoré saw this not as a logistics problem, but as a moral crisis. So he acted. His government committed to building 5,000 kilometers of roads every year, not with foreign contractors, but with local engineers, trained youth, and community consultation. By July 2025, over 1,500 kilometers of paved roads had been completed, linking rural villages to urban trade centers. But this isn't just about pavement. It's about power, community power. The roads are built using solar-powered machinery and locally sourced materials, ensuring that development doesn't come at the cost of debt. Every new road means lower transport costs, fresher produce, and quicker access to health care. In villages like Lao, the change is dramatic. What once took days now takes hours. Trade flows. Ambulances arrive. Life returns. Traoré's roads don't just connect places. They connect people to opportunity. This is infrastructure as liberation. And in a continent often paved over by foreign agendas, Traoré is proving that when Africans build their own roads, they choose their own direction. This is more than a cotton deal. It's a declaration of intent from a nation that refuses to be silent, led by a man who refuses to bow. Captain Traoré is showing the world what's possible when leadership serves the land, not foreign lenders. He's feeding a nation, educating its youth, building its roads, and forging alliances that bypass centuries of exploitation. With Bangladesh, he didn't just sign an agreement. He ignited a movement. Movement rooted in dignity, not dependence. Burkina Faso is not waiting for permission anymore. It's setting the pace. And as the West watches in disbelief, other African nations are beginning to take notice. The path is clear. Trade over aid, soil over slogans, pride over pity. Now, the question isn't what the world will give Africa. It's what Africa will offer the world. And if leaders follow Traoré's example, that offering will be rich, just, and unstoppable. The time of hesitation is over. The age of African direction has begun. So let the soil speak. Let the people rise. And let the world finally listen.